She didn't crash into your life. She slipped in like a quiet drug, and now you're addicted to the very thing that's destroying you. You didn't even notice it happening. One day she was just this beautiful mystery, a spark in the middle of your otherwise controlled world. And somehow, without a single warning flare, she became everything. She made you feel seen, like someone finally understood you in ways no one else ever had. She asked about your childhood wounds and held your gaze like she could heal them. She mirrored your dreams, your fears, your humor. She matched your pace, finished your sentences. She didn't just enter your world, she became it. At first it was perfect. The kind of connection that makes your heart race and your logic shut down. You felt chosen. Special. You thought, this is rare. She bombed you with just enough subtlety to make it feel organic. The texts, the affection, the late-night conversations about fate. She made intensity feel like intimacy. And when the cracks started to show, you chalked it up to depth. Passion. Trauma. You didn't see it for what it was, manipulation. Now you flinch when your phone lights up. You second-guess everything you say before you say it. You apologize for things that aren't even your fault just to keep the peace. You wake up exhausted and go to bed with a mind racing through every misstep you might have made that day. You've become hypervigilant, reading moods, anticipating reactions, calculating your tone like it's a matter of survival. Because with her, it is. She's no cartoon villain. She's subtle, polished, sometimes charming, other times terrifyingly cold, but never predictable. That's what keeps you stuck. This psychological casino where sometimes you win, but most days you lose big. The highs are breathtaking. The lows make you question your own sanity. She tells you she loves you, but only after she's broken you down so low the word feels like a lifeline. You think you're just tired, that it's a rough patch, that things will get better. But here's the truth. Love should never feel like slow erosion. You've lost your joy, your clarity, your spark. And the worst part? You barely noticed it fading. You explained away her mood swings, rationalized the disrespect, excused the emotional outbursts. You called her wounded, misunderstood. You saw her pain and thought it gave her a pass. But here's the part no one talks about. She knew exactly what she was doing. From the moment she saw how deeply you care, she weaponized it. She didn't want a partner, she wanted control. And she found it in your empathy, your loyalty, your inability to walk away from someone who claims they're broken. She saw your strength and she knew she could twist it until it became your cage. You're not weak. You're not crazy. But you are in danger. Not the kind you see in movies. The quiet kind. The kind that makes you disappear piece by piece, until one day you look in the mirror and can't remember who you were before she arrived. It doesn't start with a slap. It starts with a compliment so perfectly timed, it disarms you. Then a withdrawal that feels like punishment, but it's disguised as space. You don't realize it's a game until you're already losing. One minute she's wrapped around you like you're the only thing that matters. The next she's gone cold, distant, locked behind a wall you're suddenly desperate to climb. That's how the push-pull begins, subtle, addictive, brutal. She builds you up just enough to make the crash hurt more. When she gives, it's overwhelming. When she takes away, it feels like dying. That's not love, it's conditioning. She teaches you that attention is a reward you have to earn. That love is performance-based. That your value depends on her mood. And her mood changes like weather you can't predict, but you still blame yourself when the storm hits. One day she says you're everything she's ever wanted. The next, she acts like she's barely tolerating your presence. You scramble to fix it, replaying conversations in your head, analyzing every word for landmines. You apologize just to keep the peace. But peace never lasts long. That's the trap. She pulls you close, then pushes you away hard enough to make you chase her. The more you chase, the more power she holds. And she knows it. It's not about love. It's about control. Emotional whiplash keeps you dizzy, off balance, desperate for stability. But stability is the one thing she'll never give. She wants you reactive, unsure, dependent. Because when you're confused, you're easier to manipulate. When you're anxious, you stop asking questions. When you're emotionally starved, even crumbs feel like a feast. You think if you just say the right thing, do the right thing, love her the right way, it'll go back to how it was. But how it was always part of the setup. She hooked you with intensity so she could destabilize you with absence. The cycle isn't a mistake. It's her method. She doesn't want partnership. She wants obedience masked as devotion. Every time she pulls away, you try harder. And every time you try harder, she backs off more. Eventually, you stop recognizing your own reactions. You're constantly walking on eggshells, terrified of saying the wrong thing. You edit yourself mid-sentence. You wait for affection like a dog waits for treats, unsure, anxious, hopeful. That's not connection. That's emotional captivity. And the scariest part is how normal it starts to feel. This isn't chaos by accident. It's by design. She wants you stuck in survival mode so you don't have time to think, to breathe, to see clearly. The confusion is the control. The inconsistency is the leash. She'll punish you with distance, then reward you with closeness, just enough to keep you coming back. Like a slot machine that pays out once in a while but mostly robs you blind. You're not addicted to her. You're addicted to the relief that comes after the pain. And that's exactly where she wants you. She doesn't argue to find truth. She argues to win. And the moment you start defending yourself, you've already lost. She's not looking for resolution. She's looking for control. Her talent isn't lying, it's bending reality just enough to make you question your own memory. She doesn't scream every time. Sometimes she whispers. Calm, composed, almost logical. That's when the damage cuts deepest. You'll tell her what happened. She'll tell you it didn't. You'll show her the message. She'll say you misunderstood. You'll repeat the exact words she used. She'll swear it's not what she meant. And slowly you stop trusting your own recollection. Your own gut. Your own judgment. That's the goal, so you start relying on her version instead. She spins stories so convincingly, you start to wonder if you really are the problem. Maybe you are too sensitive. Maybe you did overreact. Maybe she really was just trying to help. That confusion? It's not an accident. It's a tactic. Her favorite one. She's not chaotic. She's calculated. She chooses her words with surgical precision. She'll call you selfish for needing space, cold for setting boundaries, controlling for asking questions. She doesn't want honesty, she wants compliance. So she wraps manipulation in concern, insults in compliments, and control in love. She turns every confrontation into a courtroom, where she's the victim, the judge, and the jury. You're always on trial. You're always guilty. She'll cry about how hard it is to love someone like you. She'll list everything she's done for you, every sacrifice you never asked for. She weaponizes her effort, like you owe her your silence in return. If she crosses a line, she won't apologize. She'll justify. She'll bring up something from months ago, something minor you thought was resolved, and use it to level the playing field. You're never allowed to just be hurt. You always have to defend being hurt. And after enough of these cycles, you stop bothering. She isolates you emotionally before she ever isolates you physically. She erodes your confidence in small, surgical cuts. A joke that stings. A comment that lingers. A look that makes you shrink. And when you react, she calls you dramatic. You're too much. You're never satisfied. You're always starting something. So you start saying less. Feeling less. Needing less. That's how she wins. Not with force, but with erosion. She doesn't take your power all at once. She convinces you to hand it over piece by piece. And you do because you think keeping the peace is love. But what you're really doing is disappearing. You'll notice your voice going quiet in your own relationship. You'll see your spark dimming in photos. You'll start avoiding people who ask too many questions. Because somewhere along the way she convinced you that the version of yourself who used to laugh loudly, speak freely, and dream wildly was the wrong version. And the scariest part? You believed her. You keep telling yourself it's just stress. Just a rough patch. Just life being heavy. But your body knows the truth before your mind catches up. Your energy's gone. Not low, asterisk gone. Asterisk you wake up tired, go to bed wired, and spend the day in a fog you can't explain. That's not coincidence. That's survival mode. Every time she explodes, your heart races. Every time she goes silent, your stomach knots. Your nervous system is running a marathon it never trained for. You think you're just anxious. You think you're overthinking. But what you're really doing is bracing for the next blow. You live in a constant state of alert, never relaxed, never fully present, always scanning for danger in someone you claim to love. She creates the fire, then plays the hero. She starts the war, then demands your apology. That confusion you feel isn't random. It's engineered. Because when you're too exhausted to question the chaos, you become easier to control. You're not just reacting to her behavior, you're adjusting your entire life to avoid triggering it. You cancel plans just to prevent a meltdown. You hide your phone to avoid suspicion. You lie to your friends because telling the truth would sound insane even to you. That's not love. That's emotional hostage-taking. And every time you rationalize it, your body takes the hit. Your skin breaks out. Your appetite changes. You can't focus. Your chest feels heavy even when everything seems calm. That's your body screaming for an exit your heart won't take. You're not imagining it. You're enduring it. She thrives in emotional chaos. Peace makes her restless. When things are stable, she pokes until something breaks. She starts fights over tone, timing, the way you blinked. Not because she's impulsive, but because she needs the drama to feel alive. And you? You're her fuel. You've started blaming yourself for everything. Her bad moods, her outbursts, her silence. But if love means never being allowed to relax, that's not love. That's survival wrapped in codependency. You're not difficult. You're depleted. You try to anticipate her needs before she even speaks. You adjust your behavior to match her ever-shifting rules. You've stopped expressing your own needs because they're always used against you. Slowly, your identity dissolves under the pressure of keeping her satisfied. The silence isn't peace, it's tension waiting to snap. The affection isn't warmth, it's currency she uses to buy compliance. You're not crazy for feeling off. You're being emotionally rewired. This isn't how relationships are supposed to feel. You weren't built to live in a battlefield. And yet, here you are, treating survival like love and chaos like passion. But your body remembers the cost. The fatigue. The tension. The dread. You don't need more patience. You need peace. And deep down, you already know she's not going to give it to you. The first time you say no, everything shifts. Not just the energy, asterisk her entire face. Asterisk like a mask slips for half a second. You see the shock, the disbelief, the flicker of rage she tries to bury under a forced smile. It's not just defiance to her, it's betrayal. Because you weren't supposed to wake up. You were supposed to keep playing along. She doesn't take rejection like a normal person. She takes it like an attack. You set a boundary, she takes it personally. You express a limit, she calls it abandonment. Suddenly you're selfish, cold, detached. But all you did was protect your peace. And that terrifies her more than anything. She's not used to resistance. She's used to bending people until they break. So when you finally stop folding, she panics. Not openly, she's too smart for that. She'll go passive, then explosive. Tears, then insults. Silence, then love bombing. It's not random. It's a test. She's probing for weakness, trying to find the version of you who used to cave. But you're not him anymore. You used to think boundaries were mean. You were taught to accommodate, to explain, to overjustify. But now, you say what you mean. You don't ask for understanding, you just decide. You don't defend your lines, you draw them in stone. She hates it. Not because it's cruel, but because it works. Control slips through her fingers the moment you stop needing her approval. And she will do everything to get it back. Expect guilt. Expect tears that look real enough to confuse you. Expect a sudden flood of affection that feels too good to walk away from. That's the trap. The affection isn't love, it's leverage. A reward dangled in front of you just to get you back in line. But this time you don't reach for it. You stay firm. You stay quiet. You stay calm. That calm will drive her insane. She's not used to calm. She feeds off chaos. She needs your reactions to feel powerful. She needs your emotions to keep the spotlight on her. But when you stop reacting, she loses the stage. And when there's no audience, the performance falls apart. You start to notice how often she pushes you just to get a rise. How every boundary you set gets twisted into a personal offense. How she tries to convince you that saying no is proof you never loved her. But the truth is, if love means erasing yourself, it was never love to begin with. You're not heartless. You're healing. And healing sometimes sounds like silence, distance, and walking away without a final speech. She will call you cruel. She will call you changed. She will call you everything but free. But you are. And once you taste that freedom, you'll never hand it back, not even for the most seductive apology in the world. She taught you that love meant proving yourself over and over. That if you really cared, you'd tolerate the moods, the guilt trips, the emotional mess. And you did. You showed up every time, even when it cost you your peace. You didn't walk away. You shrank, hoping if you were small enough, she'd stop hurting you. But she didn't want peace. She wanted submission. Every attempt to protect yourself was flipped back on you. The moment you spoke up, the accusations came fast. You don't love me. You're abandoning me. You're just like everyone else. It was never about the issue. It was about control. If she could make you feel guilty, she could stop the boundary. If she could make you doubt yourself, she could keep the power. She weaponized her wounds. Every conversation circled back to her pain. Every disagreement turned into a spotlight on her suffering. You stopped expressing your feelings because somehow you always ended up comforting her. That's not communication. It's emotional blackmail. She didn't want resolution. She wanted domination wrapped in vulnerability. Disengagement isn't cruel. It's survival. You've tried talking. You've tried fixing. You've tried being everything she asked for. None of it changed her. Because she never wanted change, she wanted control disguised as closeness. And you finally realized that no explanation will ever be enough. Not for someone who hears boundaries as threats. So now you do the one thing she can't manipulate. You go still. Not silent with fear, silent with clarity. You don't yell. You don't beg. You stop reacting. Because reacting keeps the game going. But calm? Calm breaks the cycle. It takes the script out of her hands. She can scream, cry, lash out, but when you don't play along, the show collapses. This doesn't mean you ignore her. It means you stop engaging on her terms. You don't try to soothe her chaos. You don't rush to fix what she intentionally breaks. You let her sit with the fire she started. And that will drive her wild. Because you were the emotional cushion. The one who always gave in. But not anymore. You're not cruel for stepping back. You're not cold for protecting your mind. Strategic disengagement means refusing to be manipulated without throwing fuel on the fire. It means you speak with action, not arguments. You don't explain a boundary, you enforce it by following through. She'll escalate. She always does. She'll say whatever it takes to pull you back in. Expect rage disguised as love. Expect softness weaponized as bait. But none of it holds power when you stay grounded. When you stop proving your worth to someone who profits from your self-doubt, you win. She wanted a puppet. What she got is a man who finally sees the strings. Detachment isn't about walking away with rage in your chest. It's about no longer offering your soul as a sacrifice. It's not cold, it's clarity. You stop trying to decode her chaos. You stop volunteering for emotional whiplash. You stop mistaking her pain for a project you're supposed to fix. Because the truth is brutal, she doesn't want healing. She wants control masked as crisis. You've tried everything. You softened your tone. You changed your routine. You gave her the benefit of the doubt until there was nothing left to benefit. And every time you gave more, she took deeper. Not because she didn't see your effort, but because she expected it. Because the moment you stop giving, her illusion of power cracks. You believed you could love her out of her dysfunction. You thought if you were patient enough, calm enough, kind enough, she'd finally feel safe. But her chaos isn't a reaction, it's a weapon. Her drama isn't a wound, it's leverage. She doesn't want peace. She wants submission dressed up as intimacy. So you stop explaining. You stop trying to get her to understand your side. You start seeing silence not as defeat but as protection. Not from her words but from the hooks inside them. Every fight, every breakdown, every, "I didn't mean to," all of it designed to keep you tangled. But when you detach, the threads unravel. You stop defending yourself to someone committed to misunderstanding you. You stop pouring energy into conversations that always end with her playing victim. You start choosing your sanity over her storms. And that's when she loses control, not because you fought harder but because you finally refused to fight at all. She'll sense it. She'll feel the shift. You'll go from her favorite project to a threat she can't control. She'll escalate. She'll guilt. She'll beg. She might even promise change. But this time you see it for what it is, bait with a hook buried in it. You've been reeled in before. Now you cut the line. Detachment doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care more about your own peace than her approval. It's not apathy, it's freedom from emotional debt. You owe her nothing. Not another explanation. Not another apology. Not another night of your mind twisting into knots trying to make sense of nonsense. You don't hate her. You just refuse to be her fuel. You stop reacting to the tantrums. You let the manipulation fall flat. You watch her spin, and for the first time, you don't step in to stabilize her world. You let her sit with the fallout of her own destruction. That's the power she never saw coming. Not anger. Not revenge. Indifference. When her chaos no longer moves you, she loses her grip. And in that quiet, in that space she once occupied, you find something you haven't felt in a long time, yourself. This isn't about getting even or making her realize what she lost. It's about reclaiming your life and dignity on your own terms. Closure doesn't come wrapped in apologies or explanations. It's born inside you the moment you accept some wounds aren't meant to heal together. Some people aren't fixable because they don't want to be fixed. You won't get a grand gesture or a heartfelt goodbye. You'll get silence, anger, or more manipulation disguised as remorse. And that's okay. Because your power lies not in her response but in your decision to walk away anyway. To leave behind the chaos and the lies. To stop hoping she'll change and start trusting yourself again. Release the bitterness. Holding on to resentment is like drinking poison and expecting her to suffer. It only weighs you down, keeps you trapped in her web. Freedom comes when you let go of the need for revenge or recognition. When you stop waiting for answers and start creating new ones on your own. Ask yourself the hardest question. Why did you stay? Be brutally honest. Did you see red flags and call them quirks? Did you make excuses for behavior that tore you down? Did you believe love meant sacrifice without limits? Owning your choices isn't self-blame, it's self-awareness. The kind that breaks cycles and builds new paths. You were not just a victim, you were a willing participant in your own unraveling. You stayed because deep down you believed in the fantasy she sold. Because you thought love meant fixing broken pieces, even if it broke you in the process. That belief kept you tethered when you should have been free. But awareness is your weapon now. When you know your worth so deeply that no toxic narrative can distort it, manipulation loses its grip. You become invisible to predators. Your boundaries become unbreakable walls, not flimsy lines begging for respect. You no longer bend to please, you stand firm to protect. Walking away is your rebirth. It's not about what she did to you, it's about what you refuse to let her do anymore. It's about choosing yourself over the chaos, the pain, and the illusion of control. It's about reclaiming your time, your energy, and your joy. You don't need her validation to feel whole. You don't need her forgiveness to find peace. Your life begins the moment you decide you're done being her caretaker, her punching bag, her crutch. The real victory isn't her downfall, it's your rise. This is where true strength lives, not in the battles you fought for her but in the one you finally fought for yourself. The moment you stop being a volunteer in your own destruction is the moment you start truly living. Ready to stop volunteering in your own destruction and start truly living? Subscribe now and take the first step toward your real freedom.